McCormack.
I'm Jacqueline Nipsad.
I'm Pat McCaffrey.
And I'm Lauren Bach.
They're the three smartest people we could find to bring you the news you're not supposed to know. Like this story. Parliament was disrupted by refugee protesters who superglued themselves to the railing in Parliament.
If they were really committed, they would have glued themselves to watch Morrison's budget speech back in May.
Concerns were raised over the rough removal of the protesters, but it was more humane than leaving them in Parliament.
Initially, some people thought the protesters were playing a prank for Parliamentary Muck-Up Day after Christopher Pyne had earlier led George Christensen up some stairs.
As of yesterday, P-plate drivers in Mike Baird's New South Wales are prohibited from using hands-free GPS on their phones while driving.
Pulling out the Sidways directory and leafing through while swerving erratically muttering, "Damn, damn, damn," will still be permitted.
The good news is, with Sydney's overbearing lockout laws, most young people have nowhere to drive to anyway.
How about drive anywhere except Sydney?
Tasmanian farmers want the Senate to pass a new law allowing them to use non-native bumblebees to pollinate their crops.
Peter Dutton is determined to deny bumblebees visas, saying, "They flew here, we grew here."
Dutton is worried these illiterate bees are going to come over here and steal hard-working Australian bees' jobs.
And look, I'm not a racist, but do these bees even speak English?
Overseas now, and Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued actor Steven Seagal with a Russian passport.
In 48 hours, the passport will self-destruct, and Steven Seagal is the only man who can save us.
In Soviet Russia, Seagal watches you!
Seagal and Putin then took part in a traditional Russian celebration by riding shirtless away from an explosion on a bear while drinking homemade vodka.
A group of Year 11 chemistry students in Sydney have cooked up a $2 generic alternative to Daraprim, the AIDS medication marked up 5,000% by controversial pharma bro Martin Shkreli.
Which means those schoolboys could mark theirs up 4,000%, 0.99999, mind you, and still come out heroes.
Given their aptitude for chemistries, the boys are receiving attention and potential job opportunities from universities, foundations and bikies.
Their production efforts may be hampered, however, as New South Wales Premier Mike Baird has already moved to make underage high school chemistry illegal.
A poor modern-day diet has been blamed for Australian patients suffering a resurgence of the 18th century disease scurvy.
Doctors have prescribed a patch to wear over your eye, a parrot for your shoulder, and portside wenches.
Doctors are also on the lookout now for smallpox fever, scarlet fever and Saturday night fever.
Those in Sydney are particularly prone as the Baird government has moved to make underage fruit and vegetables illegal.
Pauline Hanson and other One Nation senators have visited a healthy part of the Great Barrier Reef to prove that climate change isn't real.
To be fair, Labor senators often visit healthy parts of the Senate to prove One Nation isn't real.
The nation rejoiced at the news that Pauline Hanson had finally walked into the ocean. However, hopes were quickly dashed when she once again came ashore.
The illiterate senators were refused entry back onto land for fears of them taking the jobs of hard-working Australian bees.
Those are our headlines for the week, but now to look at something with a little more detail.
Since Donald Trump's nomination, there's been a lot of focus on the ultra-conservative nationalist alt-right movement amongst his supporters. Australian Liberal Senator and General Dickhead Cory Bernardi has said he's been inspired by the result of America by a similar catalyst for change. If the alt-right can win an American election, does growing alt-right support in Australia mean Bernardi's breakaway conservative ambitions could be one day a reality?
Well, something noticeable about the alt-right movement is they've got a huge online presence, but I don't know about you, but I've never actually met an alt-right person in real life.
Do you reckon it's because if they said what they believe out loud, it'd sound a bit silly?
Oh, well, you can't advocate white supremacy anymore. The political correctness gone mad, Anthony.
Or are they actually vocal and we all just live in this lovely little leafy leftist bubble, like full of acceptance and quinoa and full heads of hair?
Yes, but it sounds so nice. But when I think of like extreme right-wingers, first of all I think of a food truck, delicious. But I just think of old men yelling at stuff they can't understand, like computers or like women.
Well, but they're not old. I mean, most alt-righters are actually young white guys, like 30 years and under.
Yeah, the whole movement is using really sort of hip language. Like for lefty people, they sometimes call them libtards. And for men that disagree with them, they're called cucks.
Bless you.
Thank you.
What about women that disagree with them?
Actually, they don't have a word for that because none of them have ever spoken to a girl.
This is true. Look, I don't want to be the one that's always bringing up Nazis.
You are always the one that brings up Nazis, though.
I know, but this time it's true.
Is it fair to call them Nazis though? Because this is a speech from Richard Spencer. Now this guy's first credited for being alt-right, and this seems very un-Nazi-like.
Yeah.
You know, they're it's in Ohio. Okay. Now they're Nazis. Now they're Nazis.
Not for a while.
Everything.
And it seems though like the media gives alt-right politicians, people like Hanson and Bernardi, a lot of airtime, or a disproportionate amount of airtime.
Yeah, well, the supporters do really like watching them, and I've got to admit, I also really like it because it really outrages me. And sometimes it's just a reminder that I'm capable of feeling something.
But I think it creates this cyclical thing. You know, these speakers get a larger platform that exposes their views to more people. That means they get an even bigger supporter base, bigger platform next time. I mean, I think you definitely saw that with the way Trump campaigned in the US presidential election.
Yeah.
Should we not be talking about Bernardi and Hanson right now?
No, don't make me get all introspective. I don't want to get all introspective.
I mean, I don't even own a mirror. I don't even know what colour my eyes are. Like, seriously, I don't know.
We'll stop giving them oxygen. We'll stop talking about them right now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, I want to keep talking.
You keep talking through the break. We'll be back after this. Back, you're watching The Leak. Birth control, it's one of the few things society asks women to do. Could men play a more active role?
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Mifsud and I've had sex. No, not recently. Oh God, no. But I have had it. Now, sex used to be for people who wanted to grow a little human, like when you cut off the top of a carrot and you soak it in cotton wool buds. But now it's more of a sport, a fun recreational activity you can play with your friends or someone you vaguely know, like tennis or Scrabble. But before you get your balls out, you have to make sure you're prepared, like scouts.
Sexy scouts.
So for those of us who want to avoid making a science experiment that they can't afford or haven't got time to look after, there's always the wonderful world of birth control. I'm talking condoms and patches and sponges and implants, IUDs, spermicides and no-entry underpants. But do you recall the most famous birth control method of all? I'm talking about the oral contraceptive pill. Yawn. But now there's a new option, and for men. So, grab your willies, boys. Come with me. A Danish study into male contraceptive injections has revealed them to be almost as effective as the female pill, reporting a success rate of 96%. A synthetic polymer, which is kind of like a shark net but for sperm, is injected into the duct connected to the testes. Ooh! So when the little wrigglers come into contact with the net, they're unable to swim to shore. I'd show you some footage of the procedure, but it might be a little bit hard for some men to swallow.
But the study was discontinued when some of the participating men reported unwanted side effects like mood swings, acne, depression, and increased libido. Oh, the poor dears. Any fertile woman will tell you what it's like to feel horrible and tired and aggressive and horny all at once. But those guys need to tough it up, because there is nothing more sexy than someone taking responsibility for their actions. Speaking from my own experience, I would say that women are more sexually responsible than men. And if you're a sexually responsible man and you're offended by these comments, add me on Facebook, because I think we should date. Women have been taking the pill for over 50 years. Collectively, not personally, don't be weird. But a pill for men is still in development? Do you know men are fertile all the time? So why are women doing all the responsibilizing when we're only fertile a few days a month? Answer that. The problem isn't science, my friends. It's the tentative commitment of drug companies. I bet they're run by men. Commitment isn't their strong point. But hey, if you're willing to commit, add me on Facebook. But I can't even get a guy to buy me a latte, let alone get an injection in his ballsack. Know what I'm saying? High five. Woo! But a girl can dream. Let's go sleep.
Now, I know it's the Australian dream, but God, owning a home can be a nightmare, can't it? I mean, there's mortgage repayments, people that burst into your house to do renovations, that weird switch in the laundry that controls when the post gets delivered, and that door in the cupboard that takes you into a magical land with a big talking lion and a weird half-horse, half-gay, almost Hugh Grant with a stutter thing. So, as you've probably guessed by now, I don't own a home. And at my age, I'm coming to terms with things I'll never have in life, like a sick haircut, or an Australian Test batting average. Look, I'll take 3.4, then at least I can pretend I'm a bowler. And a house. Because owning a home seems almost impossible for millennials, which, by the way, is the dumbest name for a group of people since we started calling thieves wellness instructors. Shut up, Annika, you're not a doctor, okay? You just take money from rich people who think they don't sleep enough. And it's a tricky issue, with many moving parts affecting supply and demand of available housing. And there's a real debate about intergenerational equity between my generation and baby boomers. And because it's complicated, it's frustrating that so often the advice to my generation seems to be,
anything's possible with plan.
oh, really? Can you make that advice any more patronising? I mean, should I pay for the house with money, or do we live in a barter economy and I'll need a goat, 2 sacks of potatoes and some pumpkin seeds? Oh, planning? I hadn't even considered that. I was just planning to walk through town and wait for a house to fall on me, Wizard of Oz style, and just hope I was in a doorway when the whole thing landed. And before you say anything, I'm not saying hard work isn't necessary. And sure, we can always spend less time browsing Reddit. Wait, what? There's a video of a cat eating carbonara? I am on board with this. But let's not assume this is a level playing field. In 1975, a house cost 5 times the average annual income of Australians. Now it's 13. And it's not even like our incomes are growing. Because while boomers' average incomes increased 19% between 2003 and 2012, ours decreased by 4%. So yes, baby boomers, we'll work just as hard as you did for your first home, and then as hard again, and then a little bit more. It's like you're Kylie Minogue and we're Danny Minogue, right? It's not our fault, but don't pretend that our life is as good as yours. And obviously work is important, but the way politicians talk about it doesn't exactly make me think they understand the issues involved.
The starting point for a first home buyer is to get a good job.
Sophisticated stuff, Joe. It's hard to believe you ever lost that job, although it's obviously even harder to believe that you then landed another pretty sweet job in the US. But for us, getting a job is hard. Youth unemployment has been in double digits since the GFC, Coles now lets people scan their own groceries, and more jobs are being casual rather than permanent. So just telling us to get a job is about as helpful as telling an ant to get a physiotherapy degree. And I get that life wasn't meant to be easy, and we can't expect to walk through the world without working hard and still expect to make a living. Unless, of course, you're Michael Slater. Honestly, just sleep with David Warner and get it out of the way. It's the will they, won't they sexual tension that drives people crazy. And I'm not saying you didn't work hard or that you had things easy. And sure, more housing supply would help, and that should happen. But that's a long-term solution. In the meantime, my generation needs your help to shift the market in favour of owners, not investors. Because right now, you know that Australian dream of owning a home with the front lawn and the picket fence I was talking about it? Well, for us, that's no longer a happy dream. In fact, that's starting to feel a lot more like the sort of dream that features a cameo from Freddy Krueger at some point.
Welcome back to The Leak. Our guest tonight was one of the protesters at both Parliament House protests earlier this week, Sumalina Winoto. Sumalina, tell us about, you're doing these protests, what are you hoping is going to come out of it? What's the best case scenario?
Well, our messaging is pretty clear. The best case scenario is that the camps are closed immediately. That's what we want the government to take accountability for. And essentially, just close the camps, Manus Island, Nauru, obviously, and also Christmas Island and all of the onshore detention centres that are in all the major cities here in Australia, that those camps are all closed and that people are being processed in the community.
So if the government can't do that, is there a second option?
A second option? Well, a lot of it is around them acknowledging that what they're doing is inhumane. It's against so many international laws, and acknowledge that people are being tortured and assaulted in these camps, and that they're death camps, that people have been committing suicide, and that people are being abused by the guards that are there. And just acknowledge that that's what's happening, and that they're going to address it, and that they're going to be working on closing those centres.
Do you feel the what you guys did was successful, like your protest to raise awareness? Or was it focusing on the wrong thing?
I think our messaging was very good. I think we were very direct and very clear with what we wanted and what the demands were for the government and what we wanted them to do. I think a lot of it also lies in mainstream media projecting that message through their outlets, which is often something that they fail to do. They focus on the wrong things, like the security, or if people got hurt, or the reactions they got from PMs, rather than just amplifying the message that protesters are giving. This is something we've seen time and time again. I think in terms of what we were trying to achieve, I think we sent a very strong message, and I also think by having this protest in the last week of Parliament, a lot of politicians will now hopefully go home and have to think about that and think about their position on it. Another one of the main phrases we were using was that you are all complicit. All of the politicians and everybody who works there is complicit in what's going on, because nobody is saying enough against what's going on.
And when you talk about the message getting through to politicians, am I right in saying that the protest on Wednesday, a lot of the politicians in the lower house actually walked out once they realised what you guys were doing? Do you think then there's a concern that they're actually not taking the message you're sending seriously? And is there anything you guys can do to make the message more effective in a sense? Yeah,
sure. So what happened in the gallery was that essentially most of the Liberal Party left about halfway through. So they did hear quite a substantial amount of the messaging, and we tried to make sure all of the main points were in the first 30 seconds of our speak out. So there's no way they didn't hear what we were saying.
Because a lot of these politicians, you bring science to them, you bring facts, you bring data, and they say, I don't even care. So is there an issue then when you're going to more extreme kind of routes that they, the way that you're talking, they're not listening to?
I think a lot of what that shows, and I think that's also related to, as you were saying, the types of actions that people take in order to highlight issues, whether it be science, whether it be going to rallies or signing petitions or calling up their MPs. So a lot of the time, the problem is not the messaging or the content of it, but more the fact that politicians are so disjuncted from the actual public. They're not seeing us as people, they're not seeing us as people who interact with the news and what they're doing and their policies, and they've forgotten that they represent us as the communities. They've forgotten that their job is not to make more money and move higher up in their ranks. Their job is to make sure that we create a society that's fair for everyone.
And when you talk about, this is an issue obviously that you're quite closely involved in. We're talking about sort of politicians not reacting necessarily to facts all the time or to arguments. Given your involvement in it, how hopeful in a sense are you of change in the long run?
I think change is possible, and I think we can really, it won't take that much to close the camps, and it won't actually, they're so expensive, and it's going to be better for everybody involved, including the government, when to close these camps rather than to keep them open. They will have to close eventually. They just have to. There's absolutely no way around it. They're already talking about closing manors. They're already talking about reducing the number of people in the onshore detentions and moving them into kind of like collating the people from 2 centres into 1 and things like that. So they are already looking at ways to reduce the number of people who are being processed. The main issue is just the xenophobia involved in it, and that it's not about making it easier for the people who are fleeing war and fleeing really horrible circumstances and looking for help, but it's more about how do we stop more people coming here, which is absolutely ridiculous.
So Melina, thank you so much for talking with us tonight. Right now, we've sent Lauren to about the furthest place that we could find from Parliament House, Sexpo.
Hello there, it's your old mate Lauren here, as I like to be called, the Queen of the Dildos. We're here at Sexpo, and we're going to be talking to Michelle Flynn from Light Southern, who's a virtual reality porn production company here in Australia. Apparently, we are thrusting forward in terms of this innovative technology, and right here at Sexpo, you actually get a virtual reality headset when you walk in. It's the way of the future. Anyway, stick around, because we have taking in the sights and smells and sounds and everything that Sexpo has to offer coming right at your face. So check it out.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, how you going? I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for
not too
coming.
bad.
Thanks for coming to Sexpo.
So Michelle, tell me about what you do.
All right. So I'm a director, producer. I have my own adult production company called Light Southern.
Is there a connection between virtual reality and immersing yourself in something and then it moving to some kind of exotic location?
Yeah. What made sense to me is to have the locations just as beautiful as the performers.
Right.
Because you're in the scene, so you're there. When you put on the headset, you are effectively a person in the scene. So it made sense to have. If you're there, then why not make it something like a beautiful place to be in?
This is going to be my first time doing this, okay? You're witnessing the popping of the cherry. Thank you so much for doing this for me, Rita. Just want to handhold me through this. All right, ready? Okay, great. Oh boy. Oh my God.
Is it playing?
Yes, I think I have to press the thing to say yes.
So put the pointer over it and...
Yep, and then, yeah, that's real wet now. I have a wet hand.
I'm like super wet everywhere. It's like slippery. Like touch me.
It'll be really.
Like around there. It's like slippery around there. See?
Yeah,
like
it is. Pressurized air to bring blood flow to the clitoris. I've always wanted to know what it'd be like to blow dry my own clit. Hey, Beck. So I can't help it. There's something between us.
Yeah, something purple, actually.
Really purple. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the sex gum?
Absolutely. So this is a product that we've just launched worldwide a couple of days ago, so it's new to the market. It's an amazing machine.
Not sure what to expect when it's going to be
ready.
Turned on.
Oh. Don't just laugh at it. Get in there. Grab it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say hello to my huge friend. All right, thank you. Calm down, everybody, guys. Okay, they're gone. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It only shoots blanks. You're fine.
Well, the Council of Fremantle have decided that Australia Day will not be celebrated on January 26. Instead, they voted for 2 days later, those wacky Western Australians and their time zones. While the move has angered WA Premier Colin Barnett, who claimed Australia Day is now a day for all Australians, whatever their background, Fremantle Mayor Brad Petit has said that January 26 was a sad day for many Aboriginal Australians, and not just sad, going on to say it's far more complex than that.
So instead of holding the celebrations on the day that the first fleet arrived in Australia, the Fremantle has moved the celebrations to 2 days later, which I reckon was probably about the time the Aboriginal people of the area realised, oh, these white people aren't going anywhere, are they?
And so the new celebration on January the 28th is going to be called One Day, which isn't exactly an inspiring name, but it's certainly a lot better than other ones, like One Nation, for instance.
Or One Direction. Different thing. But it's been a national recognised holiday only since 1994. Like Hey Dad had its final episode in 1994.
Yeah, and we are not celebrating Hey Dad anymore.
No.
Pat, when people talk about it's a complex issue for First Nation Australians, what are they talking about?
Well, perhaps a good illustration is actually the following clip from New Matilda that demonstrates a historical reenactment from Cooktown.
Right, so that video was shot in 2008 and it's been taken out of context.
Yeah, but when you watch the full video, what you see is people dressed up as English soldiers firing at First Nations people who then scatter, and when the video ends, you can hear people sort of clapping and or laughing.
Yeah, it's not okay. There's so much laughter, it's really unsettling.
Yeah, it's deeply uncomfortable.
And look, I love Australia, and I think there's so many reasons why we should be really proud and why we want to celebrate, but maybe I just feel like that day is not the best day to do it. Like, the same way you wouldn't have a bonfire on Ash Wednesday.
Well, we do have the Queen's birthday and we're not all monarchists.
Yeah, we have Boxing Day, but most of us don't care about boxing.
That's not what. Forget it. There was something though. Protests have been launched against it as far back as the 1930s. I think started something called the Day of Mourning, and that was an Indigenous-led protest. And I think protests like that still go on to this day all over the country.
Yeah, and the Indigenous community do call it things like Survival Day and Invasion Day. But like semantics aside, to most people, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just getting drunk and chowing down on a burnt snags, right?
We still can't cook properly. But even Indigenous elder Dr. Robert Isaacs has come out and said it's a good thing. And they said that Australia Day brings people together, and we should celebrate the good the country's done. So does that mean it's okay now?
Well, possibly, but there's still a lot of vocal opposition from within Indigenous activist groups, and it just seems to be one of those issues that comes up every year and gets more and more complex every year.
Yeah.
So, if you still live in Fremantle, do you still get the day off?
On the 26th.
Great. So, is that when the fireworks are?
No, they're now on the 28th.
When everyone's at work?
Exactly.
Well, I'd actually be happy with that, because Mum says every time the Sparky Bang Bangers come out, she has to lock me in the laundry.
And that's our show for tonight. Please thank all our wonderful guests and our splendiferous hosts, Jacqueline Mifsud, Pat McCaffrey and Lauren Bock. I'm Anthony McCormack. Good night.